Okay, so we are on Daf Zayin Amud Aleph. If you're looking on the screen, you see we're in the middle of the screen. Actually, we're going to go back and
I think we're up to Amar Yosi by Bay Rebbe. One, we just finished saying that according to Menasio, Rabbi gave Rav
let's start from the beginning of that again.
Darman Kisamim.
Right. So, for the little Aleph over here, Malim knows Kanim. Okay, so Malim knows Kanim, the Dvarim Yechidim. Can you appoint as a rabbi for certain things? The Shemini Mazal certain from here. Rab Menise Rebbe. Rav was appointed by Rebbe. Menise means to appoint. Rab Menise Rebbe Lahatu Nadari. He gave an appointment to Mater Neder. In other words, even by himself as a Yachid Mumche, he didn't have to join with other Dayanim. Liros Kesamim, also to check the blood of a woman who's in need of, if it's Tamei or Torah. Mean the Damach, once Rabbi Yehuda Nasi died, Boy Gabe Bray. So then he asked, we asked Rabbi Shimon Rebbe, Shimon the son of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Mumei Bechoros. Could I get permission, get license to look check a bechor if it has a mum, an animal, a firstborn animal, if it has a mum, at which point you're allowed to eat it. So then you're not allowed to eat it because it's a hektish. Once it gets a mum, you can eat it. They said, I'm not giving you more than my father gave you. So no. Okay. So the Gemara says, no, he gave to begin with. He gave him more. To be a judge in court cases by himself. And also to look at women of animals which were revealed women. In other words, ones which are apparent and didn't need to be checked out much more closely.
How do we know Rabbi Akiva's son wasn't including then what he was saying?
What?
Well, if Rabbi Akiva,
Rabbi
Yehuda,
yeah,
Rabbi Yehuda Nasi did give him this. Why is it saying that he did give him more? If Rabbi Yehuda Nasi gave him this, not anymore.
But still, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, according to the second opinion, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi gave him like 3.5 things. He gave him to judge, to Matir Neder, and 2.5 things. To judge, to be Matir Neder, and to look at a mum, but only a mum which is obvious, not a mum which is not obvious. And the Bavli says that the reason he didn't give him, he didn't give him to look at mum at all, because the Bavli says that Rav was too big an expert. He could tell a mum that somebody else would not be able to tell as a mum, and people would make a mistake. They would think that was there being matir the same thing Rav was matir, but really they're not, and therefore they would allow a bechor with a mum which actually did not have a mum. And Yerushalmi is saying something similar, but it's fine tuning it and saying that a mum shebagoli, which means a mum which is obvious to everybody, that Rabbi Nasi gave him reshus to look at and to be matir the animal. But a mum shebaseiser, right, one which is not apparent to everybody, which requires special expertise, that he said, I'm not letting you do that because you're the big expert. But once you're gone, other people, not such big experts, are going to say, oh, that was what Rav allowed. And in fact, it's not what Rav allowed. So they're not giving you permission to paskin on that. So the Gemara says, he can't, so after Rabbi Yehuda Nasi died, he came to Rav came to Shimon Rebbe and asked permission to even judge, to even paskin on a mum shebaseiser, on a hidden mum. And he didn't. Rabbi Shimon Rebbe did not give him permission to do that. So Ava got so Gemara says here, even though we're over here, Ava got even though he said you can appoint a zaken for specific things, he's got to be worthy of everything. In other words, you can appoint somebody for certain things as long as they're royal for everything. They can't just, which is an interesting concept, because it comes out according to this opinion that you can't train specific experts for specific areas in halacha. That the experts in all areas of halacha, and then you can say, but I'll let you pass it on this area, not in that area. But that a person be specialist and trained only in one area, that the Yerushalmi is saying no. Okay, so that's he says.
We have that today, no?
What?
We don't really have today like someone that only passes in one area, no?
We don't. No. But
so it's like the Yerushalmi.
Most Rabbanim today don't know how to pass it anyway, so it's not relevant. It's a famous joke that on the back of when Peter got smicha from Moshe Feinstein, it came with a sticker on the back, and the sticker said, "Not for actual use in paskening. In case a psak call this number." It was Moshe's number on it, because today even people get smicha, they're not trained to paskin actually. So yeah.
Did they really have that?
What?
Did you really have that?
I don't know if he really had it. It was a joke, so I don't think so. But everybody knew that a lot of yeshivas which give smicha where you don't know how to paskin afterwards. You just memorize some you're there. So the
How if you go to
what? Okay, so the Gemara says that kiadah. It's like the following case. Rav Shimon Levi mani l'chol tamudoi. Rav Shimon Levi gave all his talmidim smicha. V'hava mitzvah achat hava bachi beinoi. He was upset because there was one of them who used to cry a lot. I guess he used to have some sort of problem with his eyes. He used to cry a lot, so his vision was not great. Right? He couldn't appoint it to be a rav. Why? Because he couldn't see properly, so he couldn't see a mum in a bechor, and he couldn't see the blood of a woman who's a nida. They say that a person who's colorblind, they can't look at the blood of a nida because they can't see the colors, right? I think there's
wait, how would you tell between
what?
How would you tell between nida blood and regular blood?
Well, it depends. There are different shades of brown or green or red, which depending which shade it is. So then you can it's either blood which is tummy or blood which is not tummy. But you have to be able to. If you're colorblind, you can't tell the difference. So actually, there's Mana Gemara. Somebody was according to Yerushalmi, someone was colorblind and he couldn't look at the blood of a needle to see what color it was. You couldn't give him smicha altogether, because here it says that he couldn't give smicha to this Talmud that had the bad eyesight. It says going to be why couldn't appoint him for specific things and just not include nida and bechor? So it teaches us somebody is suitable to do everything. He's suitable to do one thing. If he's not suitable to everything, even one thing, you can't give him smicha for that one thing. Okay, period. This is another fascinating question, which actually appears in the Bible also in the Second Sanhedrin. Can I say, you know what? I'm giving you smicha for a month. After a month, it expires. Okay, you get to be called rabbi. You got to be a rabbi for a month, and then it expires. So nishmini merada. Let's have from here. We're in the second wide line now on the screen at the end of the second wide line. Rabbi Chia Barba Asal Gabi Rabbi Lazar. Chia Barba came to Rabbi Lazar. Amar Lacey said, piously Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya convinced Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, who was the grandson of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who was the Nasi, that he should write for me a letter, Dayakar, which gives me honor. In other words, that's basically the smicha, a letter which shows that I'm chashuv, that I'm able to pass it. And then I'm going to be able to go and make a panosa in Chutz La'aretz. Ara is Aretz. Baryosa means outside. So Ara Baryosa is the same thing as saying Chutz La'aretz. So he wanted to go down to Chutz La'aretz to pass to become a rav for a certain amount of time, and then come back there to Yisrael. So he wanted to have temporary smicha to go down to Chutz La'aretz. So Paisei, Rabbi Lezer convinced Rabbi Yehuda Nasir to give him such a letter. Kasav lei, and he wrote for him. We sent you a great person. Shluchenu, v'chayotze banu. He is our agent, and he has the same authority we have. Until he comes back to us. So it's as long as Nasir said, as long as you're in Chutz La'aretz, you get the basket. Once you come back there to Yisrael, no. But in Chutz La'aretz, you get the basket. Okay, so that was, so you see that you can give a limited, time-limited smicha. Just like you can give a smicha which is limited in what the person could do, you can also give a smicha which is limited in how long it's going to last. Okay? Rabbi Chizkiah, Rabbi Dosi, Rabbi Abba Bar Zmina, Rabbi Dosi Saba, that this is all these Canaan, all these Amoraim, Rabbi Chizkiah, Rabbi Dosi, Rabbi Abba Zmina, and some say Matuba means some come to it. Mishmei Rabbi Dosi Saba, in the name of Rabbi Dosi Saba. They one of them said, some of them said, Hachin Kasav Le. This is what he wrote for him. So it's Rabbi Yehuda Nasir wrote a slightly different letter for Rabbi Chia Barba. This is what he wrote him. We sent you a great person. So what's his greatness? She'ena bosh lamar lo shamati. He's not embarrassed to say, I don't know the halacha. Okay. So the obviously before we said that he's supposed to know everything, right? So how can you say how can you give a smicha to somebody who says I don't know? But obviously what we're saying is that he has general knowledge of everything. And he's not embarrassed to say, I don't know, when he doesn't have specific knowledge of a specific question. I know myself, it's a big Yetzirah. If somebody calls you with a shayla, right? To give an answer on the spot. Because you don't want to look stupid. So therefore, you give an answer on the spot. And then later on, you realize, I better look it up and make sure. And sometimes you look it up and make sure, you realize you made a mistake. So that's why it's a godless for a person to be willing to say, I don't know. Let me look it up first. Let me consult.
Rabbi, what would you paskin in this case?
What?
Should I give you a case to paskin?
Can you give me a case to paskin?
Yeah.
What's the case?
Oh, count case.
What?
This happens to be a real case. On the 8th day of Hanukkah, in Eretz Yisrael, people light outside. So they have their whole container full of oil and wicks and water and all schmutz.
Rabbi, do you let outside?
No.
And it was on the balcony, and a floor beneath, someone hung the laundry over there, white piece of laundry. And the cat comes and knocks over the whole cup of schmutz, and it ruins the laundry. Does the person have to pay or not?
It sounds like a trick question because on P. Din, you don't have to pay.
Why not?
Unless it's your cat.
No, the person who owns the cat.
What?
The person who owns the cat.
A person who owns the cat? I don't know. It sounds like it sounds like something which is mishuna for a cat to do.
Mishuna.
What? And we're not going to knas. So it doesn't sound. It's not Shane. Just knocked it over, right? It's
right.
Not Shane. It's not Rego.
It's a ruach matsuya.
Right.
If you leave it out there, for sure it's gonna fall, or someone's gonna push it over.
So you're saying you shouldn't put out the laundry?
No, he shouldn't leave it outside. At the fall, it's a ruach matsuya. The cat is a ruach matsuya.
I don't know if the cat is ruach matsuya.
Because something's gonna come.
What sack was given in this case?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the extra sack given was he's not chayiv because it's not a ruach matsuya since all the other 7 days he didn't knock it over.
It's also
is that the exact case?
It's also, by the way, the Gemara says Baba Kama that in Hanukkah people have rishus to put out their menorahs. Gemara Baba Kama says that if the person puts out a menorah and a camel goes by and its cargo gets lit on fire, so the rest of the year, the person put out the fire outside his store is chayav, but on Hanukkah he's putter because put out rishus. So here too, the guy who was hanging out the laundry should realize that somebody might come and put Hanukkah candles there.
But it wasn't the candles that next to it. It was all other stuff that you should have thrown out.
The whole setup. Anyway, I would say off the top that you don't have to pay. There's a pay, but let's just say they should mind. Certainly appropriate.
Rebbe,
Yes, we're getting off topic.
What's your psak on lighting a menorah outdoors?
It's certainly a nice thing to do. And Chutz La'aretz is not the minute. Nobody knows exactly why it's not the minute, but it's not. And therefore, I don't think it's necessarily even a chumrah in Chutz La'aretz. It's just a nice thing to do. Is that clear? Because again,
Kiddush Hashem?
the minute, I don't know if it's Kiddush Hashem. I don't think anymore. I don't know if it's Kiddush Hashem any more than putting it in your window. That it's an Indian. There's the Rugged Trover says that when it says Mishras Sakana Michal Shulchana V'dayo, that means that at that point Chazal were actually mevatel, at least in Chutz La'aretz, the Indian are putting outside the house. Now it's once when the Shas Takana came and they were masakin light inside, they didn't ever restore the Takana to light outside again. So according to the Rugged Trover, there's absolutely no advantage lighting outside in Chutz La'aretz. Okay.
Would be
Anyway,
Gaiva?
what?
Would be Gaiva?
Could be Gaiva. Yeah, may well be. The person showing off, it's dangerous. Okay, but let's go further now. So, Malahat here, a bit plugging. Now, is it Planus? So the King Ephraim says it's a yarmulke, right? So can you paskin when you only wear a yarmulke? You have to put on a hat to paskin. Okay, that's a King Ephraim. The others say, the Aruch says, can you paskin in shirt sleeves, or you have to put on a jacket in order to paskin? Now we know a dayan is supposed to sit with the head covered and with a jacket on, right? So the question is whether you can paskin with an uncovered head or with a jacket off. Now, of course, if you paskin, not wearing your jacket, not wearing your hat, but the evidence psak is a psak. But the question is it appropriate to put on a jacket or hat or a basket? There's a famous.
Wait, what's the planim?
It's planus, foulness, which seems to be some sort of either hat or outer garment.
Huh. Mine has a mem.
What?
Mine has mem.
Oh, I think you're right. Flanim. Yeah. Yeah, flanim. So the
Who says the shirt sleeves?
it said the Aruch was when we showed him, and the Korban Eidah says something like that. It says the talus, the outer garment.
It says you can or can with or without short sleeves.
Yeah, we just asked a question. We didn't answer yet.
Oh.
Okay. But there's a story brought down in the Svarim that there was the author of Curry Bone, Rabbi Solomon Najara, lived in Tzfas. At the time of the Arizal once sent him a message because he was singing Zmiros without a hat on. And the Arizal sent a message that in Shemayim, there was tremendous kitrug against him. He was singing these beautiful Zmiros like Curry Bone without wearing a hat. So he better put on a hat, otherwise he's a dead man. So he put on the hat. Strange story, but there is such a story brought down. So okay, so Malatif Lanis means specifically Hataras in the Dorim, right? But it's the same idea as I'm not sure about other psakim. Could be about any psak, but the question is specifically Matir means Hataras in the Dorim because Hataras in the Dorim is like a basin. We have 3 people, even though it's true that you don't need Dayanim, but we do have 3 people. So Ma'olati Planis, Rabbi Avo b'Shem the other Matir b'Planim. Again, either just with the yarmulke or just with one shirt sleeves. Rabbi Yitir b'Planim. Shua ben Levi Matir b'Planim. Achum Shem Rabbi Yirmiyah b'Makom she'ein talis. You can only be matir without a jacket. In other words, an outer garment. if you don't have the outer garment to put on.
That's
Yeah.
that's mashma like the orach, not the.
Yes, much like York, yeah. But I think that Gil Ephraim would say you would put the towels over your head, right? And that way you'd be covering your head. So the flanim is either the yarmulke or the regular shirt. And he says going to the flanim if you don't have a talus. He says interesting carbon Ada. Let me show you the carbon Ada here. Carbon Ada says over here during Kalin. Shani Torim B'charota. The way he knows the turn Kalin is light Nidorim, ones which you can be matir with charata, because the guy regrets the nether. Because don't require the analysis, and therefore it's not like a psak of a basic. That's by severe Nidorim. Shani Torim B'Pesach, where you have to find a Pesach in order to be matir neder. The tzricha iyuna, which requires analysis. You guys know the difference between charata and Pesach? Anybody know the difference between charata and Pesach by neder?
Yeah, Pesach is one. If you know the neder, then you have to find a way to go around it. Like I only made the neder because I didn't know this.
Okay, so let me elaborate a bit. A Pesach is where I made a neder because to go to the mikveh, let's say every day, but I didn't know it was going to be a cold mikveh. And the Pesach is, had I known it was a cold mikveh, I would not have made the neder. Only a hot mikveh. That's a Pesach. Charata is, I know it was a cold neder, cold mikveh. Sorry, but I thought I could take it, and now I found out I can't take it. So that's charata. That's remorse. That's regretting the neder. So because the Korban Eder is saying it's a bit of a chiddush that a neder which can be matir with charata, with remorse, you're going to be matir. It's going to be light, and for that you don't have to wear your hat or jacket. But a neder which you matir with a Pesach, it's a more severe process, and for that you should dress up like a dayan and wear your hat and your jacket. When I'm in the base of America, nobody wears hats. We do wear jackets, but I don't know if that's specifically because we're wearing because the Daesh wear a jacket or because just we happen to be wearing jackets, but I've never sat in Din Torah wearing a hat. So I think we're moichel. Nowadays, we're also moichel. Theoretically, the Baalei Din, when they come to basin, they're supposed to stand the whole time. So we say right off the bat, we're moichel and we let them sit down. So I guess if the Baalei Din are moichel, then you don't have to actually stand. They don't have to actually have to wear the hat or jackets.
Agamas say that bring a halacha l'meister from this Gemara that by Nadar and Charata you don't have to have a bazin shakel. I mean you could have a bazin shakel. You don't have to have.
You don't have to make it chashuv, you said?
No, it says Yechayvin Mikan Lakash and Nadar Kalam and Nadar and Charata Yechayvin Hatiram Af bazin sheish le mispar zuge.
Where are you reading this from?
It's in Agamas. It says halacha shemakarim b'Yerushalmi.
That you can do that. Even a basin of two can do it. That basin of two people? Doesn't seem that way from the Yerushalmi. I don't see where they really got from this Yerushalmi.
I know it's a shas. It says shas l'shuas mishana.
Okay, so a lot of things people got from the Yerushalmi, which are either not in our Yerushalmi, or people thought were the Yerushalmi and aren't the Yerushalmi. But I don't see that. I don't see that here in our Gemara. Yeah, I don't see it here. Okay, so let's go on further. Hilchos Shabbos. So we said Hilchos Shabbos are like a mountain which is hanging by a hair, because there's a lot of halachas, but they don't have. There's not much of a hint to them in the Torah. Rabbi Yonah told over. Rabbi Chaim Bar Ukva asked the question: Valo ein ksiv ela ach mayon ubar mikve mayim yiator. So this is going on not on Shabbos, but it's going on Hilchos Taros, and he's saying that why are Taros not considered to be also mikra muat and halachos merubos? Because by Tumah Tara we learn many halachos from this pasuk of ach mayin and bar mikve mayim. So that's the case. So that should be something mentioned on Mishnah. But it is mentioned on Mishnah, but it is says in the Mishnah that Taras and Tumas Yesha Mashi Yismochu, that there's a lot of psukim about them, but that's not true. We learn lots and lots of halachos of mikveh from this one pasuk, which is very, very brief. Right? So again, Valo Enksiv Achmayin Bar Mikveh Mayim Yator. From here we learn all the halachos of mikveh. Says Lo Meimenu Kama halachos. So as the Korban Eidos just explains what we just said, Valo Meimenu Kama halachos Nimsa Sh'ab Taros Mikra Mur Halachos Merubos. There's small amount of psukim and a lot of halachos. So why V'lam Latani somebody Hilchos Shabbos? So why is not mentioned Hilchos Shabbos? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Zir B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan in Bas. Well, actually, the Gemara doesn't really answer the question. The Gemara just leaves that question hanging. Okay, kind of like the question. All right, now the Gemara goes on, which Yerushalmi does very often. So now the Yerushalmi goes on to a different topic. So Rabbi Zir B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan in Bas halacha tachs yodecha. If halacha comes to you, you don't know what the source of that halacha. Don't try and learn it out from some other, meaning unlikely source. The Korban Eidos explains. He says, don't say that the halacha can't be true, only drashos rechokos, or to say that there must be to come up with a novel drush to find the source for this halacha. It must be that halacha must be Sinai. Ish mipi ish ad Moshe. There's a famous Rambam that says, when Torah doesn't say how to build a sukkah, right? So that's the type of, so therefore must be halacha must be Sinai. Torah doesn't say how to make filling. So that must be halacha must be Sinai. So anything which we have a Masorah about, and we don't have a pasuk which we have a Masorah concerning, the Gemara is saying, don't try and make up bases in psukim. Just assume it's halacha must be Sinai, right? And he explains, it goes on, Yerushalmi goes on and says, Sharei kama halachos never Moshe Sinai. There's several halachos which are given to Moshe and Sinai. The kulam meshukos by Mishnah, and they're all embedded in the Mishnah. In other words, even though they have no source in the Torah itself, they have the fact that they're in Mishnah is enough of a source, because the fact that Mishnah indicates that they're part of Torah Sheba'al Peh. They're given halacha Moshe Sinai. Rabbi Avun said, "Yos, this makes sense." That it says, I'll give you an example. It says you have two different types of grain. You have to give two payos, one from each type of grain. Pay meaning the part of your field which you leave for the aniyim. Ilulesha banachum and pirsha lanu were nachum not to have come. I assume it's nachum is gamzu who had taught us this halacha. No, Rashi the Korban says nachum alavlar, different nachum. So if not the nachum alavlar told us this, would we have known? So obviously, it's a strange halacha to pick out of thin air, but he says there are halachas like this, like peo, which clearly that you to know that you have to take from each type of wheat its own peo. That must be halacha Moshe Sinai because there's no source in the Torah itself. So and the Gemara picks up and it says, Rabbi Zir Shem said, "Echtov lo rube sorasi." I wrote for them most of my Torah. What do you mean I wrote for them most of the Torah? Is most of the Torah written down? Most of the Torah is not written down. What does it mean that most of the Torah is written down? Ella merubim hadvorim hanidroshim min haksav min hadvorim hanidroshim min hapeh. So he holds that the other time we're going to have machlekes. He holds that there's more halachas learned out from drashas than from straight Torah Shema Peh. By straight Torah Shema Peh from halacha Moshe Sinai. Most he says most halachas learned from say Rashava, Kavachomer, Yugimel Leadership Tony Drashas Plan, and relatively few from halacha Moshe Sinai. So the Gemara says, "Vikini, is this true?" Chavivim advarim hasmuchim l'ksav midvarim hasmuchim lepeh. Rather, it's most Torah is Torah Shema Peh, but the things where they have a hint in the Torah itself are more chavivim. I think the reason why it doesn't say why they're more chavivim, but I think the reason they're more chavivim is because Chazal felt that making drushes from which to derive Tersh B'Ksav was a primary purpose of their limud. You connect Tersh B'Ksav and Tersh B'Peh. So that's why I think Chazal all over Shas are always concerned to find the drasha from which they can learn something, even as smachta, which is not truly a drasha. They want to find. So he's saying no, really, most of Torah is halacha Moshe Sinai. But what's chaviv, what's more precious to us, is something which we can learn out from a drasha. And that's why in several places in Shas it says that the Tana first said, like in Kiddushin, because the Tana first learned the type of Kiddushin which you learn from a drasha. Because it's chaviv to him, because the united Tersh B'Peh with Tersh B'Ksav, and in that you were able to learn the drasha and learn out that halacha that way. Okay. Amrei Barpazi, Echtov lo Rube Sarasi Ela Tochachos. I wrote for them most of my Torah, which are the Tochachos, which is an interesting idea. But the way he learns it, the Korban Eidah says here.
What are Tochachos?
Where the Tochacha is in Parashas Chukosai and in Parashas Kisavo, where Hashem says to the Jews what's going to happen if they go wrong. Okay, that's called the Tochacha. What's going to happen, how Am Yisrael's going to have to go into Golus. So he says, the Korban Eidah says, El Tochachos, the Rabbi, or Rabu, Melashon Rove Kashos. So in the language of shooting an arrow, by Moru V'Robu, or else Matzasi Lashon Acher Lashon Rib, which means an argument or striking up an argument. So in any event, the way he's that
he gets it from Taisus, what's that? Who's of Shimon Surlion?
Rash Cirilio? Yeah, Rash Cirilio was one of the people. He was one of the people who was exiled from Spain in 1492, and he wrote a perush on Seder Zroim, which is very, very fundamental and good perush. So the so he says, he wrote for them many, many things to tell them what's going to happen if they go wrong. Lo kamo zarnak shavu. But didn't they treat me anyway like a stranger? Ma beinamu umos. Wasn't she the Jews and the non-Jews? In other words, the Jews and non-Jews, they both seem to not listen when HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells them to do something. Okay, so we're going to get stuck in the middle. So next week we'll pick up again from Rabbi. No, I skipped. Sorry. In other words, didn't they act like strangers? And this is what we'll pick up from next week. From Rabbi Avun.
Have a good Shabbos.
Okay, have a good Shabbos.
How about Shabbos?